911 emergency.
I can't find my daughter.
9-year-old Valiree Jackson vanished from her Spokane, Washington home without a trace. The search for her whereabouts included almost every neighborhood and the area's mountain and forest regions. But the key to solving the mystery was an investigative tool 10,000 miles away in space. Spokane, Washington is a vibrant city, the center of an area known as the Inland Northwest. Many residents looking to raise a family settle several miles east of the city in the Spokane Valley, where the schools are good, crime is low, and families feel safe. Brad Jackson, a truck driver, and his daughter Valerie lived here in a home they shared with Brad's parents. Brad had sole custody of Valerie because the child's mother, Roseanne Pleasant, mysteriously disappeared 7 years ago. She had a drug problem. In October of 1999, Valerie had just turned 9 years old. She was a very bright fourth grader at the McDonald Elementary School, just a few blocks from her home.
Just saw a vibrant little girl. If somebody was in an argument, she'd try and mend it and fix it. And she was a great little girl, never got in trouble.
Monday morning, October 18th, started out just like any other school day until something went terribly wrong.
One location of your emergency.
I can't find my daughter.
Okay, how old is she?
9?
Okay. She didn't go to school today?
No, we're just getting ready to go, and she went outside to play for a while because she was done early. I can't find her.
She's a white female?
Yes, little redhead.
Brad said Valerie had been playing in the backyard with her dog while he was in the basement doing laundry. Later, he heard Valerie leave for school through the garage door.
And then he heard her go out into the front yard. He was very exact. He said exactly 8:32. He walked out the front door and found her missing, found her backpack laying on the front doorstep.
Valerie! Come on, Valerie, where are you?
Brad Jackson frantically searched the neighborhood, knocking on doors searching for his daughter before calling police.
Okay, what is she wearing?
She's got blue jeans with a dark blue down the side, purple socks, coat bright pink, with I think there's like little blue flowers on it.
That call mobilized not just police, but also a tightly knit neighborhood.
I got home at 9 a.m. and my mother-in-law called me about 5 after and said, there's a little redhead girl missing on Blossie, and I knew right away it was Valerie. So I raced over there. Brad was in the front yard. And I went over there and hugged him, and I said, let's find her.
Normally when we get missing kids, I mean, they're found either in the house or at a friend's house playing, you know, and they're cleared within 45 minutes at the most to an hour.
But the little girl was nowhere to be found. Valerie's grandmother made a televised plea for her safe return.
Please, whoever took her, we're asking for her safe return. Because Valerie, you know how we always hug and kiss every night, honey? Well, we're still giving them to you.
As the search continued, neighbors began calling police with leads.
So I'm right down the street from her. That little girl was kidnapped. I might have something that might be able to help you. Okay, what do you got? In the last couple weeks, there's been a blue blazer and a man about 6'2", light-colored hair.
Unfortunately, none of these tips checked out. Parents feared something sinister had invaded their quiet neighborhood.
We were all terrified. We wouldn't let our kids walk to school, and we didn't want ours to be the next.
Days went by with no sign of 9-year-old Valiree Jackson. Flyers were posted in stores, in car windows, and on the internet. Newspapers and television stations asked the community to report anything suspicious.
As a parent, you're concerned because I have a child the same age, that here there's potentially a person who's loose in the community preying on school children.
An abduction by a stranger was one possibility, but problems in the Jackson family suggested another.
The fact that her mother had been reported missing, was listed as a missing person since 1992, and that either her mother or someone for her mother could have taken Valerie.
But the last time anyone saw Roseanne Pleasant, Valerie's mother, was 7 years earlier in 1992. Roseanne's brother didn't believe his sister had anything to do with Valerie's disappearance. He pointed the finger squarely at Brad.
We believed that he had sold her into a pornography ring to get money. He was raising money for a reward, so we felt that once the money got high enough that he would pay someone off, or he had drug problems. We didn't know.
Detectives searched the Jackson home for clues. In Valerie's room were some bloodstains on her pillow. Brad Jackson told police that Valerie had a nosebleed the night before she disappeared. Police also found a prescription for Valerie for the antidepressant Paxil. They learned that the normally cheerful little girl was in counseling because of a stressful relationship with Danette Schroeder, one of her father's girlfriends. Danette and Valerie argued frequently and fought. Danette suggested to Brad that Valerie should receive therapy. That was when she was given the antidepressant medication. And forensic scientists found something else in Valerie's bed: 2 red hairs. They were identified as pubic hair and appeared to be similar to Brad Jackson's. But pubic hair can be transferred from room to room on socks. The evidence could be meaningless or an indication of sexual abuse. Police also thought it was odd that Brad Jackson was able to recall much more about Valerie's clothing on the day she disappeared than most parents would usually remember.
He knew exactly every article of clothing that Valiree Jackson was wearing. He was able to describe it to the police down to her purple socks.
And while Valerie did have a history of bloody noses, there was no other evidence inside the home to corroborate Brad's story.
I didn't find any evidence in the house other than on the pillowcases of her having a bloody nose. No evidence of her stopping the bloody nose, such as toilet paper, towels, or anything laying around.
With a search warrant, Jackson's pickup truck and automobile were searched for evidence. But police found nothing in either vehicle.
Grandparent, a brother or sister?
2 weeks after Valerie disappeared, residents of the Spokane Valley held a candlelight vigil, praying for her safe return.
Pray for Valerie.
Few knew at this point that the girl's father was a suspect.
He'd made statements to me. He knew he was being followed by the news media. There was neighbors following him all the time. He was always having to lose tails. He was very paranoid about it.
But surprisingly, police weren't following Brad Jackson at all. Why? Because they didn't have to. When police searched Jackson's car and truck for evidence, they left something inside of each vehicle. It was a device called a Global Positioning System, or GPS. 10,000 miles above the Earth, 28 global positioning satellites circle the globe. Each one beams back the precise time as kept by an atomic clock. Since the signals have different distances to travel and therefore reach the Earth at different times, a computerized receiver can translate that information into an exact position to within 30 feet.
The GPS receiver will record that location. If we move to another location, it will know the difference in time and how long we have spent at a time exactly to within milliseconds.
The location of the vehicle can then be monitored by the police. After the GPS transmitters were hidden in Jackson's vehicles, Detective Madsen took a calculated risk. He confronted Jackson with his suspicion that he had murdered his own daughter.
I didn't know if he'd buried her. I just took a gamble, the fact that we hadn't found her. This had been over a week, and the fact that she hadn't been found in that period of time would indicate to me that she probably was underground.
He was kind of told by Detective Madsen that, look, we know you killed her. We know you buried her somewhere. You probably didn't bury her deep enough. The animals are gonna find her. They're gonna dip her bones. We're gonna find it.
And then, yeah, look over your shoulder. I'll be looking for you because you'll never know when the time is that I'm gonna throw you in jail.
The satellites would be looking too. And it didn't take long for Jackson to take the bait. The GPS system revealed that Jackson had driven 60 miles away to a remote logging site and spent the next 44 minutes there. 4 days later, Jackson drove 5 minutes away from his home to another deserted location on Valerie Road.
He arrives at that site at 2:28:28, and the next movement is 2:44:10, which is approximately 15 minutes.
From there, the GPS tracking system reveals Jackson drove 60 miles away, stopping once again at the logging site.
There's some open fields, farmland, and a lot of woods.
When police went to the Valerie Road site, cadaver dogs went straight to a shallow grave, empty except for 2 plastic shopping bags and some duct tape, which had several red hairs attached. Next, police made the 60-mile drive to the logging site. Once there, the cadaver dogs found an area that had recently been excavated. It was a grave, deeper than the one on Valerie Road. And in that grave was the body of 9-year-old Valiree Jackson, lying face down. The police gamble had paid off. They had frightened Jackson into moving Valerie's body into a deeper grave.
I watched Sheriff Sturck as he walked towards me. He looked at me and he told me that they had found what they believed to be the body of Valerie. And I just crashed to the ground. I went down, I couldn't feel anything. I couldn't feel my legs, my arms, nothing. I was gone. I was gone. I was mentally, at that point in my life, I died. I died. It hurt so much.
Investigators now had an avalanche of forensic evidence. The plastic bags were the same brand as dozens found in Jackson's kitchen, and traces of Valerie's blood were found inside. The duct tape in the grave matched a roll in Jackson's basement. Jackson's tire and footwear impressions were found at the grave sites. All of this evidence tied Jackson to the burial. But police still needed proof that Jackson was the one who committed the murder. Police sent the plastic bags from the grave to the United States Secret Service for analysis. They were using an extraordinary technique called vacuum metal deposition, which can find the tiniest traces of a fingerprint on non-porous surfaces like plastic.
We're here to assist any law enforcement agency, state, local, or other federal agency. You have a case of a child abduction or a child homicide. Although we're extremely busy, this is the kind of case that goes to the front of the line.
The evidence is placed in a chamber, along with tiny specks of gold and zinc. The pressure in the chamber is reduced to a near-perfect vacuum. The metals are heated, vaporized, and within the vacuum of the chamber adhere to any finger oils which may be present. The analysis was successful. The Secret Service found fingerprints on the inside of the plastic bag and on the duct tape. The fingerprints were those of Brad Jackson. At Valiree Jackson's autopsy, the medical examiners found no evidence of sexual abuse, but discovered bruising around her face and nose, which solved the mystery of how she was murdered.
The pillow that was found in her room had 2 blood spots on it, which were consistent with a pillow being pressed over someone's face and the blood draining from the nose there.
The question of motive was one that still haunted prosecutors.
The key issue in all this was why, and convincing a jury that a parent could actually kill their own child.
In a fascinating turn of events, it was the Global Positioning Satellite System which revealed the elusive motive. Almost a year after Valiree Jackson disappeared, her father went on trial for murder. Led to Valerie's grave by a GPS tracking system, prosecutors were now able to piece together the events of Valerie's murder. Prosecutors believe that Jackson smothered Valerie with the pillow, leaving behind the bloodstains found by police. Then Jackson got the plastic bags and duct tape to cover her head and prevent blood from dripping onto the floor. Finally, Jackson dressed the little girl, which is how he remembered what Valerie was wearing, even the color of her socks. Jackson drove Valerie's body to the Vakari Road site just 5 minutes away, an area he knew from hunting. It's unclear whether he dug the grave then or sometime earlier. After he returned, he called police to report his daughter missing. A few weeks later, while under the surveillance of the GPS system, Jackson drove an hour away to a deserted logging site where he spent the next 44 minutes, presumably, digging a deeper grave. 4 days later, Jackson went to the Vakari Road gravesite, removed Valerie's body, and made the 1-hour journey back to the logging site where he placed her in a deeper grave. But why did Jackson kill his own daughter? Astonishingly, the Global Positioning System revealed the answer. Jackson repeatedly drove by the home of his former girlfriend, Danette Schroeder, as he went to and from the grave sites. Even though they had broken up, Brad continued to pursue her.
So he was really obsessed with this woman, and the obsession got to the degree that his relationship with her was more important in his daughter's life.
I firmly believe that it got to the point where he saw that Valerie wasn't going to come around to Danette. He wanted Danette, and Valerie became disposable.
The first thing Brad Jackson did after his arrest was to call Danette from his jail cell and propose marriage. The first thing she did was change the locks on her doors. Prosecutor Jack Driscoll took the case personally.
Here's a parent who is supposed to protect their child, who's supposed to be the guardian for them, and he ends up killing him. buries him face down in the dirt, like he didn't even care. And that offended me to such a vast degree. I had to do this case. I mean, I had to.
Mr. Jackson, have you received a copy of the information charging you with 1 count of murder in the 1st degree? And Mr. Jackson, how do you plead to those 2 charges?
Not guilty.
At the trial, Jackson didn't deny digging the graves or burying Valerie. But Jackson claimed Valerie's death was an accident, that he found her dead of an overdose of Paxil. He feared that he would be blamed. He panicked and buried the body. But forensic scientists testified that the Paxil levels in Valerie's system were nowhere near lethal. Brad Jackson was found guilty of first-degree murder and was sentenced to 56 years in prison.
I believe he should have faced the death penalty, but he didn't. I think anyone that murders a child should face the death penalty, and their life should end.
I hope he never gets out of jail. And I wish he'd tell us where Roseanne is.
Many people believe Jackson also killed Valerie's mother, Roseanne Pleasant, years earlier. But police have no proof.
She was scared to death of Brad. In my last conversation with my sister, she said she feared for her life. She said that Brad had some lye around and what is lye used for. At that time, Brad worked on cement and building foundations. And so, to this day, I believe that my sister's buried somewhere in one of those foundations he was working on.
The children of McDonald Elementary School planted a tree in Valerie's memory. It lives and grows there, healthy and strong, the way Valerie should have.